All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into how using our bodies can completely change how we learn.
Yeah, you send over some cool research on enactive metaphors, stuff from cognitive science and educational psychology.
Yeah, and the main idea is that when we actually move and interact with ideas, those abstract concepts become, way more real and understandable.
But they're not just floating around in our heads anymore.
Right. And we're going to be focusing on this academic paper, Enactive Metaphors, Learning Through Full Body Engagement.
It brings together a bunch of research that shows this powerful connection between our bodies and how we understand the world.
So what we're going to do is try to pull out the key insights from all this research and hopefully give you a new perspective on how you learn and how you can actually use this embodied approach to, learn better.
And we're talking about a wide range of examples here, from a kid pretending a banana is a phone to, like, someone acting out the movement of asteroids to really grasp the physics.
Yeah, it's about going beyond just thinking about something and actually engaging with it physically.
It's like learning by doing.
Okay, so let's jump in. We all kind of have a sense of what metaphors are, but this paper makes a distinction between sitting metaphors and these inactive ones.
Right, so sitting metaphors, the paper uses that term playfully to describe the metaphors we encounter passively. Like when you read the phrase, metaphors don't literally sit on a page.
Yeah.
The idea of sitting is used metaphorically, but you're not physically engaging with it.
Right.
Inactive metaphors, on the other hand, are the ones we actually bring to life through our actions.
I see.
And the key difference for learning is that this active physical engagement is much more impactful for understanding than just reading or hearing about a metaphor.
So it's the doing, the actual physical act that makes the metaphor stick, right?
Exactly. The paper emphasizes that metaphors are really important for learning in general because they give us new perspectives. They help us see things in a new light. And enactive metaphors take this a step further by involving our whole body in the process.
Right. I mean, everyone has those aha moments where a good metaphor suddenly makes something click.
Totally.
So where do these inactive metaphors come from? What's the theory behind them?
The foundation is something called enactive cognition, and it draws from thinkers like Varela, Thompson, and Roche, and even John Dewey from way back.
Okay.
The main idea here is that our physical processes, what we sense, how we move, even our emotions, these all shape how we experience and understand the world.
Yeah, it's not just about our brain working in isolation.
Right. The paper even mentions Varela's metaphor of laying down a path and walking.
Oh, yeah. What does that tell us about how we come to understand things?
Well, it's a powerful image. It suggests that understanding isn't something we just passively receive. It's something we build as we move through the world, both literally with our bodies and also figuratively as we engage with new ideas.
Right. It's like our interactions and experiences are what create that path of understanding.
Exactly.
And the paper outlines some key assumptions of this inactive view of cognition. Can you talk about a couple of the most important ones for understanding these inactive metaphors?
Sure. So one really important assumption is that cognition doesn't just happen in the brain. It actually extends to include our body and even the environment we're in.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And another crucial point is that meaning isn't something that's just out there in the world waiting to be discovered.
Okay.
It actually arises from our cognitive processes and our actions within the world. We create meaning through how we engage with things.
So it's not like we're just passively absorbing information. We're actively making meaning out of it.
Exactly. And unlike traditional cognitive views, which focus on these internal mental mechanisms, inactivism emphasizes that our thinking is often extended. It's influenced by our interactions with others. It's shaped by the specific situation we're in.
We're not thinking in a vacuum.
Right.
Now, the paper also mentions something called dynamical systems theory. How does that tie into all this?
Well, dynamical systems theory looks at how complex systems change and develop over time through the interaction of all their different parts.
Okay.
So in the case of enactive cognition, it highlights this constant back and forth between our brain, our body, and the environment. It's this dynamic, always changing relationship.
I see. So it's not a static thing. It's about how all these elements are constantly interacting and influencing each other.
Right. And our emotions and social interactions are actually really important in this dynamic interplay.
Yeah, the paper mentions affective processes and something called participatory sense-making.
Yeah, so affective processes just means our feelings, our emotions, and they can have a huge impact on how we understand things. Like, there's this example of judges giving out harsher sentences when they're hungry.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it shows how our emotional state can actually bias our thinking.
Mhm.
And participatory sense-making, a term from de Jager and DePaulo, emphasizes that our social interactions also shape how we think. When we engage with others, our understanding changes and evolves.
It's like we're constantly co-creating meaning with the people around us.
Exactly.
Now, the paper connects this idea of embodied cognition to something called cognitive semantics, specifically the work of Lakoff and Johnson. How to explain how our physical experiences shape the metaphors we use to think?
Well, Lakoff and Johnson argue that many of the fundamental metaphors we use to understand abstract ideas actually come from our basic bodily experiences.
Okay.
So things like movement, spatial relationships, the way we hold our bodies, these form the foundation for metaphors that we then apply to more complex concepts.
I see. It's like our physical experiences provide the building blocks for our abstract thinking.
Exactly. They also talk about these things called image schemas, which are these recurring patterns in our bodily experience.
Like what?
So, for example, the feeling of being inside a container or moving along a path, these are basic repeated experiences.
Right.
And these get transformed into metaphorical concepts.
Mm.
So the containment schema can help us understand abstract ideas like being in love or in trouble.
Oh, I see. So it's like we're taking these physical experiences and using them as a framework to understand more abstract ideas.
Exactly. And a classic example is the metaphor, life is a journey. That's a direct application of this idea of a path as an image schema being mapped onto a more complex concept.
Right. It makes sense.
And Lakoff and Johnson call this metaphorical mapping, where we take elements from a source domain, like a journey, and map them onto a target domain,
Right.
like life.
Okay.
So we can then think about life in terms of travel, obstacles, destinations.
Yeah.
And there's even a theory called semantic blending theory by Fauconnier and Turner, which suggests that different metaphorical spaces can actually merge together to create totally new understandings.
Wow. So it's like a really dynamic process.
It is. The paper highlights that this embodied view of metaphor is different from purely linguistic theories that focus only on the words themselves. Like Malafori argues that materially enacted metaphors, like a kid using a banana as a phone, are fundamentally different from propositional metaphors like time is money.
Okay.
And this is because of the physical possibilities, what's called affordances, that the object offers. A banana can be held to the ear, time can't.
Right. So the physical object allows for certain kinds of interactions that abstract words don't.
Exactly. And this leads us to how these action-based metaphors play out in real-world learning, especially with kids and in educational settings.
Yeah. So one of the first places we see this is in early childhood with pretend play. What does the enactive perspective say about how kids learn through make-believe?
Well, traditionally, pretend play has been seen as this symbolic play, where kids are using language and internal mental representations. But the enactive perspective puts a different spin on it.
Okay.
Thinkers like Curry and Rusinska, while they have some differences in their views, they both highlight the importance of what's called seeing in, that's perceiving the possibilities for action in objects and the role of embodied actions in early pretend play.
I see.
So, like, when an 18-month-old pretends a banana is a phone, the enactive view suggests that the metaphor isn't just a mental symbol, it's in the action itself.
Yeah, they're not just thinking banana equals phone.
Right. When the child picks up a banana and holds it to their ear, they're physically interacting with it in a way that mirrors using a phone. The metaphor is in that action.
So it's about what they do with the banana, not just what they think about it.
Exactly. And it builds on their prior experiences with phones and how a banana is shaped. It's not necessarily about having this complex mental representation of phone in their head.
Right, they're just acting as if.
Yeah, and the paper talks about seeing affordances as an active event.
Now, for those who don't know, can you explain what affordances means in this context?
Sure. So affordances comes from the psychologist James Gibson, and it just means what an object allows us to do. Like a handle affords gripping, a chair affords sitting.
Right.
And in the enactive view, perceiving affordances is not passive. It's an active process of understanding what you can do with an object.
So it's not just seeing a banana, it's seeing that you can hold a banana to your ear like a phone.
Exactly.
Gosh.
And that's linked to your physical ability to actually do that and your previous experiences with similar actions.
It's about our potential for interaction with the world.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that pretend play isn't just about the individual child or the object. It's also about the social context, like imitating caregivers or interacting with them.
Right, like a parent might make frickin' sounds while the child is holding the banana.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that shared interaction actually adds to the richness of the pretense. It becomes this participatory sense-making like we talked about earlier.
It's not just happening in the child's head, it's a shared experience.
Right. So in this view, pretense becomes a kind of metaphoric transformation that happens through the action itself. It's acting as if.
The banana becomes a phone in the act of pretending.
Yeah, and the enactivist perspective emphasizes this physical enactment over purely cognitive interpretations that rely on really complex thinking. Like, the child might not be consciously thinking, this banana represents a phone. They're just acting with the banana as a phone based on what they perceive they can do with it and the social cues they're getting.
And even this seemingly simple act of pretend play is a form of learning because it opens up new ways for kids to see and interact with the world.
Absolutely. By engaging in these as-if scenarios through action, children are exploring different perspectives, different possibilities for interaction. And that's a fundamental part of learning and development.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the paper goes into enactive metaphors in learning interventions. How are these ideas being used in classrooms and other educational settings?
Well, traditionally, education has used a lot of metaphors, especially in science,
Yeah.
like the atom being like a solar system.
Yeah, those classic analogies.
Right. But these are often sitting metaphors that require the learner to just make a mental connection between two concepts.
Okay.
And the paper suggests that these purely mental metaphors might not be enough for deep intuitive understanding.
Because they don't connect to our physical experiences.
Exactly. They might highlight similarities at a conceptual level, but it's not clear if they really lead to an embodied understanding where learners grasp the implications of the concepts.
I see.
Enactive metaphors in education start with a physical activity. They have learners move their bodies, act out a process.
So the physical engagement comes first, and the understanding builds from that.
Right. The idea is that by enacting their understanding physically and getting feedback from their movements, learners can develop a more grounded and stable grasp of the concepts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like the paper gives this example of students acting as asteroids to learn about gravity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they actually feel the pull as they move and adjust their trajectories.
Wow, so the abstract concept of gravity becomes a physical experience.
Exactly. And this aligns with research from cognitive psychology, showing that our physical gestures often go hand in hand with deeper understanding.
Really?
Yeah, like there are studies showing that kids who spontaneously use gestures while solving math problems actually demonstrate a better understanding of the concepts.
It's like the gesture helps them externalize their thinking process.
Yeah, and gestures can act as a kind of scaffolding, supporting their thinking and providing extra information that complements what they're saying.
Right.
And there are studies where having people physically enact the rotation of molecules with gestures led to better performance on tasks involving those molecules.
So researchers have actually designed learning activities that use this inactive approach.
Yeah, there have been studies where young kids improve their reading comprehension by acting out scenes from a story with figurines.
Oh, cool.
Another study showed that students got a better understanding of the scientific method by physically doing the steps of an experiment.
Okay.
And using physical objects within a story has been shown to help kids understand fractions better.
It seems like this approach is especially good for younger learners who already learn so much through movement and play.
Yeah, absolutely. The paper talks about examples like using mindful movement to learn about angles and physically acting out the movements of planets.
Right.
And because enactive metaphors tap into our understanding of our own bodies and how they move in space, they can be really powerful tools for engaging young learners.
Okay, this is all really fascinating. Now, how does technology fit into all this? The paper has a section on technology and inactive metaphors.
Yeah, so new technologies like virtual reality and mixed reality are creating these really exciting possibilities for enactive learning.
Okay.
They can create what Kirsch calls enactive landscapes, where what learners see and how they move are closely integrated with immersive digital environments.
I see.
And this fits really well with educational philosophies that favor inquiry-based learning, where kids explore and experiment before being introduced to formal concepts.
Yeah, learning by doing.
Right. And the paper talks about this idea of body cueing in the context of technology.
Why's that?
So body cueing is about how technology can guide learners to move and interact in ways that are similar to what experts do.
Okay.
Like imagine a computer simulation with motion sensors that tells you how to move your hand to understand how a wave moves.
I see.
Or augmented reality could overlay instructions onto a physical task, guiding you through the movements an expert would make.
So the technology is giving you cues to encourage you to move in specific ways that help you understand the concept.
Exactly. And different technologies can support inactive metaphors in different ways. Motion sensors can make your physical activity visible in a simulation, so you can reflect on it.
Okay.
Haptic feedback can make abstract ideas more tangible.
Like feeling resistance when you try to move a virtual object so you get a sense of force.
Exactly. And mixed reality, which combines the physical and virtual worlds, seems particularly powerful for creating inactive learning experiences.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, mixed reality environments can enhance our physical actions with digital information that reinforces the metaphor.
Okay.
So imagine you're moving like an asteroid in your classroom, and there's a projection of the solar system on the floor,
Wow, that would be amazing.
right? And these environments can also provide feedback and tools for reflection.
I see.
And most importantly, they can make students feel like they're actually part of the system they're studying.
Like they're not just observing it, they're experiencing it. The paper gives some specific examples of how mixed and augmented reality are being used in education. What are some of the highlights?
Well, there was a project where elementary school kids used a mixed reality simulation to understand force and friction.
Okay,
Another one had high school students playing mixed reality games about chemistry and how diseases spread.
cool.
And there was this fascinating study where kids made music by moving their bodies. And the version that explicitly used the metaphor music is body movement led to much better learning.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then there's the Meteor Project, which is a great example of inactive metaphors in action.
What is that?
So in Meteor, middle schoolers actually act out the movement of asteroids in a mixed reality simulation of the solar system.
Wow.
Yeah, so they move around into space, they launch a virtual asteroid, and then they have to predict its trajectory based on the gravity of the virtual planets.
Okay.
The central metaphor is, I am the asteroid, and they get visual and haptic feedback that guides their movements according to the laws of physics.
So they're not just learning about gravity, they're actually experiencing it.
Exactly. And the research comparing the Meteor group, who used their whole bodies, to a group who just used a mouse, showed some really interesting results.
Yeah, what were they?
Well, the kids who used their bodies not only created better diagrams to show their understanding, but they also scored higher on tests about physics, even on questions that went beyond the specific scenarios in the simulation.
Wow, so it wasn't just a more engaging way to learn, it actually led to a deeper understanding that they could apply in other situations.
Exactly. And they also reported feeling more confident and more interested in science overall.
So physically embodying the concept actually boosted their confidence in their ability to learn science. That's huge.
It is. It really highlights the potential of designing learning environments that encourage this kind of full-body participation.
It's like we're rediscovering this natural way of learning through movement and interaction.
Yeah, and it reminds us that how we perceive the world is tied to how we can act within it.
Okay, so let's wrap things up. We've seen how inactive metaphors, where we use our whole bodies to learn, can be really effective.
We've seen it in kids' pretend play, in classrooms, and even with advanced technologies like mixed reality.
And the main takeaway seems to be that when we embody concepts, we understand them better and we feel more confident in what we've learned.
It's about recognizing that learning isn't just a mental activity. It's a whole body experience.
So for you, the listener, I encourage you to think about how you learn. Where could you use a more active, embodied approach?
And maybe it's not just about mentally planning a project, but actually physically mapping it out
Mm.
or acting out a difficult conversation to get a new perspective.
The way we move and interact with the world is so deeply connected to how we learn and understand.
What could you enact today to learn something new?
It's something to think about. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.